All right. Well, okay. First of all, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it. You were one of those guys that was at the beginning, essentially the beginning of the career field. I mean, you were a 304. You came in early, and then you did that transition over to the 275 career field, which I want to talk on a little bit later. But first, I want to get kind of an idea of what it was like when you first came in, what prompted you to get in the military, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Um, I guess I'll start at the beginning. I come from a little town in northwest Alabama, and my family has a long history of military service. My father was in World War II in the Pacific. Uh, I have uncles that drove landing craft in the Pacific. I have an uncle that he's passed now, but he was wounded at Pearl Harbor. Uh, I
Wow.
have relatives that go back almost to the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
So um, while I always, when I was going to high school, I always had an idea that I'd wind up in the military. Um,
Okay.
I was 1A for the draft, um, and couldn't see trying to start a career or anything with the draft looming over my head. But
Sure.
I found myself in Denver, Colorado in 1971, and the year after I graduated high school. And I was working for used to be Ma Bell, AT&T
Okay.
back then.
Yeah.
My manager was a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard who had gotten a field commission under General Patton. And
Wow.
we happened to go on nationwide strike shortly after I started working for him. So I didn't have any strike benefits. So I'm
Oh,
out of
okay.
a job, penniless. So my manager's talking to me, and he said, we have a program at AT&T where you go into the military, any branch, get electronics training, and when you come out in 4 years, you get 4 years of raises and 4 years of promotions. I said, wow,
Wow.
hey, this is terrific. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what about the $640? He said, you never have to pay it back. Well, $640 to somebody that's unemployed now, back in 1971, that seemed like a pretty nice deal.
Right.
So, so I got married the first time on July the 20th of 1971 and joined the military on July the 28th of 1971. So I go to Lackland. Basic training wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
My dad had gotten my face a few times. I knew what that was like. And
Right.
he kind of
Right.
shared some of his experiences during World War II, how things were.
Uh-huh.
And since I grew up on a farm, being in San Antonio, Texas, in the middle of the summer, really wasn't that much of a difference than where I'd been.
Right.
So got through basic training, got ground radio, went to Keesler for a year. Got out of there in September '72, and my first assignment was Craig Air Force Base in Selma, Alabama.
Mm.
Uh, couldn't ask for a better assignment as a new guy. It was a pilot training base. We basically worked 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
5 days a week. Every sixth week, we call it weekend standby.
Right.
And, you just had to be on call in case something happened. We
Sure.
took care of the control tower and RAPCON radios, base PA system, those kinds of things.
Okay.
I was there from September '72. My son was born in January '73. Um, and then in 1974, I got an assignment to Karamazov, Turkey. Um,
Wow.
at that time, you went to Karamazov. Then you took a C-130 to another base, and from there you took a truck to the top of the mountain, and you stayed there for a month, and then you came back to Karamazov for a month.
Jeez.
Uh, I didn't want that assignment. Being a newlywed, a new father, being very young,
Yeah.
uh, I didn't think that was going to be too good. Uh,
Right.
so there at that time there was stipulation in the regs that a first termer could turn down one assignment. So I said, okay, I'll turn it down.
Yeah.
Well, In 1975, I got an assignment to Korea. I went to Camp House. Um, that was my first experience with the Army. Uh,
Wow.
to say it was a culture shock is an understatement. My first introduction to the Army, I decided that one Saturday morning, I decided I needed to introduce myself to the motor sergeant, motor pool guy. So I pick up a bottle of Jim Beam and a 6-pack of Cokes, and I truck on over to the motor pool. As I walked into the motor pool, I see this E6 tightening a lug nut on a Jeep trailer. And I mean, he's torquing this thing. And I watched him for a little bit. I said, Sarge, you think you got that tight enough? He says, tight enough. I'm trying to take it off. Oh my God, what have I gotten into here? I wound up being one of 9 guys in a brigade of straight leg infantry.
Yeah.
So at the end of the Vietnam War, so that will tell you a little bit if you look back at the history of the military at that point in time.
Sure.
But got through that year. In August, I believe it was August 12th of 76, we had Operation Paul Bunyan, if you've ever heard of it.
I haven't really. I was interested to hear about it.
Yeah, well, what happened was at some point in time, we had planted an oak tree in Panmunjom. Mm-hmm. And over time, this thing grew, it forked, and one of the forks on the tree was covering our view of a North Korean observation post.
Oh, okay.
So he said, well, we'll just go in and trim the tree up, So we send 2 Army officers, a lieutenant and a captain, and 9 South Korean workers to go cut this limb off the tree. Mm-hmm. Well, while they're in the process of getting ready to do that, this North Korean lieutenant shows up. I can't remember his name right now, but he was known to cause trouble within the DMZ. He shows up, telling them they can't do it, and they politely tell him where he can go.
Right.
Well, he leaves and returns with a platoon of North Korean soldiers. They killed the 9 South Korean workers, and they killed the two Army officers. The only way that you could tell them apart when they finished was because of the color of their skin. One was white, one was black. They had chopped their faces off between their ears and their eyes.
Oh, my God.
And done some other things. So we immediately go on alert, and now we have North Korea and the United States 2nd Infantry Division facing off. We had ammo. I mean, this was kind of like the real deal.
Sure.
Well, I'm about 3 months from coming home after my tour. And to say that I was a bit upset is an understatement. I was scared to death. Yeah. I was filling up my sandbags, putting them around my Jeep. My lieutenant, Alo, was in the TACP. And I paused and I looked across the DMZ, and I could see a North Korean FO with his binoculars pointed in my direction. I picked up my binoculars and we were looking at each other. And off to the side of him, you could see the caves that had their howitzers in them that they would roll out on a rail car, fire, go back in, reload, come out.
Right.
And he's looking straight at me. I'm like, holy shit. This is not a good position to be in.
No.
Well, to make matters worse, this Army 2nd Lieutenant walks up to me, and I asked him, after our introduction, I asked him what he was doing. He put his hand on his sidearm and said, me and my men are here to ensure that you and your lieutenant are not captured by the enemy. Well, to say the pucker factor went up, I mean, oh my God, what do I do? Yeah. So we had the old gray 53s, with combo wire stretched between. So I ring him up. I said, hey, boss, you got to get up here, man. Something's going on. So he said, well, I'm kind of busy. I said, you're not too busy to get up here. Said, okay. So he comes up, He starts talking to the lieutenant. The lieutenant tells him the same thing. And I could see the lieutenant pause, you know, and
Yeah.
he goes, okay. He goes, I know nothing about infantry tactics. Okay. I'm a pilot. I don't know anything about tactics. He said, you deploy your men as you see fit. Let me know when you're done. I'll come out and look. And if I see anything glaring, I'll let you know. I said,
Yeah.
okay. Well, for the next 3 days, I had an armed guard on my Jeep all the time.
Wow.
Anytime we were up there, we had a guard. Sometimes as a private, sometimes a lieutenant himself would come up. So, as it turns out, they go into a meeting trying to discuss how they're going to get rid of this tree and in this situation. And so we're in this meeting, and they're discussing all this stuff. This Army engineer says, well, what we can do is we can put 500 pounds of plastic in the crotch of the tree and blow it up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, damn, 500 pounds? That's going to rain toothpicks on the United States, you know? And so my lieutenant speaks up and he says, look, sir, he says, we've got 4 loaded F4s from daylight to dusk circling over us. You know, when one flight runs out of fuel, there's another one on station. He says, why don't you let us drop a bomb on it? And I'm thinking to myself, well, F4s are pretty good, you know. They'll probably get within a click of it, you know, and knock it down. Well, unbeknownst to us, in the meantime, this Army private from Kentucky takes the 3 chainsaws that would not work. They couldn't ever get them working during this time. That's why it stretched out to 3 days. He took the 3 chainsaws and made one workable out of it.
Nice.
And they sawed the limb off. Problem solved, right? Everybody's gonna go back to where they were. Not quite. Okay, the South Koreans who responded to this operation, they were not supposed to have any heavy weapons, you know, mortars, machine guns, that type of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it was I was told it was the South Korean Tiger Division. I never knew which one it was. Probably part of the 5th Rock Corps, which we also supported.
Uh-huh.
Well, our guys searched the vehicles as they were, you know, passing through the checkpoint to go where they were going to set up. But they didn't look underneath the vehicles. The South Koreans had mounted mortars, machine guns, 50 cals, all that stuff under their vehicles. So they go into Panmunjom and set up where they were supposed to set up. And they refused to leave. I said, no, we've got it. We're keeping it.
Yeah.
You know? So it took a while for negotiations to get them to come back. In the meantime, I was during that 3 days, I was sent on one mission. We had to go up on a mountaintop and escort some unarmed Marines, communications people off this site. The Marines occupied that site all the time. But because of the armistice that was signed, the Marines weren't allowed to be permanently stationed in South Korea. The North Koreans were terrified of them.
Sure.
So these guys were from Okinawa. So we go up, pull them off the mountaintop, you know, and get them back in the rear. And so we never had to fire a shot.
Nice.
It was a real eye opener being in Korea for that year. Oh, we were supposed to get a cubic inch of the tree. Well, I PCS before they gave them out. The guys after me got them.
Oh man!
So I never got one. But it was really interesting to see how things work on the DMZ. They actually killed 3 North Korean spies trying to swim the river to get on the south side. We discovered the first tunnels back then.
Oh, really?
It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you think of Korea. Like I went to Korea for a year, and you don't realize I was in Camp Red Cloud for 6 months, and then a couple of buddies of mine, we went up to Camp Casey for the last 6 months, which was pretty cool. I mean, I had a good time, but it's you take it for granted that it's a ceasefire. It's not the war's not over. So
No,
like I can just back when you were there, I mean people are getting killed, and it just seems like it was. I don't know. When I think of Korea, I think it's like not it was a party time for me. I mean, we didn't, we did a lot of dry cast, but it wasn't, mostly it was just like a good time. But man, when you were there, it was pretty heated. I mean, it was very serious. Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy.
A week after the operation was over with, and they discovered several North Korean bodies on our side of the DMZ that the
Wow,
South Koreans had intercepted during night patrols.
man.
Um, one of the saddest things that I saw in Korea, um, had a guy 2 tours in Vietnam, came out without a scratch, and he was in a frontline unit,
Hmm.
and so he's on the DMZ. They're out on patrol, and he decides to get a picture of his patrol. Well, they tell you when you're up there, you don't step off the roads, okay? Nothing,
Yeah.
because there's minefields that the South Koreans won't tell the Americans about.
Oh, okay.
And I was told that that was because of what happened during the Vietnam War when the Army retreated. And so they were going to make sure we didn't retreat again.
Oh,
How true that is, I don't know. But
yeah.
anyway, this guy, he can't get a good angle to capture his whole patrol. So he steps off the road to take the picture, steps on a landmine, blows a leg off.
Dang.
Okay. Well, his buddies went running towards him, to help him.
Yeah.
And he told them, no, it's a minefield.
Sure.
So he crawled himself back out onto the trail where they could help him. That just struck me as being an awful sad thing for a guy to go through 2 tours, not get a scratch, be in combat, not a scratch, and then in peacetime,
Yeah.
supposedly, you get permanently injured. That was bad.
Did
So
he? So
anyway,
he made it. He ended up living through that. He just missing a
yeah,
leg.
yeah,
Oh,
he made
okay.
it through, and he just
Well, that's
lost
good,
his leg. So
man.
now I'm at the end of my tour, and I'm getting ready to come back home. Communications with your family back then was really rough.
Mm.
We didn't have computers,
Sure.
uh, so every Saturday we had a deal with Hickam Radio. Okay,
Hmm.
um, and at a certain time on a Saturday night, we could get on there and go to a certain frequency, and we could talk to Hickam Radio on our
Oh man.
HS, and they would patch us through to our home base, who would then give us an off base line, and we could talk to our wives, to our kids,
That's
for a
awesome.
very very short time.
Sure. Sure.
One day the FCC shows up and shut that down because evidently they had tracked us, and they actually knew who we were, but they weren't going to do anything about it.
Sure. That'd be a
Uh,
jerk move to like
yeah,
hem you
yeah.
guys up for that.
One of the things I thought was funniest about my tour in Korea was I had a buddy at CRC, and they had a troposcatic uh, HF setup, skip.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so we're sitting there one night. Uh, he was on duty, I was off duty. We're sipping a little of the local drinks,
Yeah.
and we're listening to North Korean radio. And North Korean radio gets on there, and they came to a time when they were talking about how great Kim Il Sung was. Yeah. Well, my buddy reaches over real quick, grabs the mic, keys, and goes, "Kim Il Sung sucks," on key. The radio went off like that,
Oh man.
and it was off for about a half an hour. And when it came on, it picked up exactly where it left off,
Really?
like it never even out.
Wow.
Well, we had a few visitors investigating that.
I bet.
Something about an international incident and all of this stuff. so, um, so we got through that. I thought that was one of the funniest things.
Oh
And
yeah.
so now I'm ready to leave Camp House to go back to Osan to catch a flight the next day, and I'm sorry, 2 days later. So I've got to turn in my mark that was going to salvage, I guess. So I had to turn it in. Well, as I'm getting ready to leave Camp House for the drive down to Seoul, um, one of the Army first sergeants came up to me and says, "Hey, look, I've got a private that's got to catch a plane in the morning. And I understand you're going to Osan. Can you take him with you so he can catch his flight?" I said, "Sure, no problem."
Yeah.
So he gets in the passenger seat and off we go. We get about maybe 5 miles from Camp House. This kid reaches in, pulls out an envelope, pulls out a pack of zigzags, and proceeds to roll himself one. He goes, hey, Sarge, you want one?" I said, "What the?" TF. I said, "Get rid of that shit, you know? So he goes, okay. I said, "I don't want to have to turn you in when we get there, and keep you from going back.
Sure.
Get rid of that stuff." He said, "Okay." So I'm watching traffic and stuff, and he no longer has it with him. So I said,
Uh-huh.
"Okay, that's fine." So we go down, I drop him off at the replacement company. I take my mark over, turn it in. I go to the barracks and get ready to spend a couple of nights.
Yeah.
Well, this guy comes up, I can't remember who he was, comes up, knocks on my door and says, "First sergeant wants to see you yesterday." I'm like, "Holy shit, what can this be about?" So I go over there, and what had happened, I walked into his office, and here's this envelope
Oh
on his
man, I
desk.
knew it. I knew it.
And I said, "What?" He goes, "What is this?" And he picks it up. "What is this?" I said, "I have no idea, First Sergeant, what it is. You know? And he says, "We found this in your Jeep." I said, "Where in my Jeep?" "It was under the passenger seat on top of the gas tank." That's where the little guy had put this. So I said, I have no knowledge. You will not find my fingerprints on it, nothing else." So we go into the colonel's office, and he tells me that I am on hold. I cannot leave the country. They have to send this envelope to Japan, have it analyzed, and get the results back and decide what the hell they're going to do.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go back to the barracks, and I'm thinking, now, how am I going to deal with this? So I managed to get a few hours sleep that night. I woke up the next day, and that's all I could think about that day.
Sure.
So the next day comes, and that's the day I'm supposed to fly. Well, I decided, what the hell? I'll go to the airport, and they're just going to tell me I can't get on a plane, right?
Sure. Right.
So I had packed my bags that night. So just before time for takeoff, I get my bags, get a guy to take me over to the flight line.
Yeah.
I go in, nobody said anything to me. I get on the airplane.
Nice.
We're off to Japan. And I'm thinking, well, I guess I'll be in jail in Japan, because when I have to go through customs there, they're definitely going to catch me.
Sure.
No, nobody talked to me.
Nice.
Okay. So I get on the plane, I go to Alaska. I said, now I know by this time, as slow as the system can be, the words got out, right?
Sure.
So I get to Alaska. Nobody says anything to me. So I caught the plane and went on back home. Nobody ever said anything.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you hear anything about it after that at all?
No, never heard about that incident.
Nice.
But I did hear about one thing that I forgot to say. About 5 months before I left Korea, I got a follow-on assignment to Fort Hood.
Okay.
Well, I had gone back home after I got this assignment to Hood. I had gone back home on leave for 30 days, see the wife and the kid and all. While I was there, the squadron commander for my old comm squadron that I was in tried to get my assignment curtailed because evidently they'd just put in some solid state radios instead of the old tube radios. Okay. And I had been to school on it, and he didn't have anybody in the shop that had been to school. So, but he was unsuccessful in getting that curtailed. So anyway,
Nice.
the month before I left Korea, they changed my assignment from Fort Hood back to Craig Air Force Base.
Okay.
You know? So, okay, I've got those orders in my hand. So I went back to Alabama, back home.
Yeah.
And I stayed at Craig for about 4 months, and they announced that the base was going to be closed.
Mm.
And they wanted volunteers to be able to stay behind guys to close out the base. So since I was from Alabama, I volunteered to stay. So for about 3 months, I had a list of equipment that some of it was going to be turned over to the civilians, some of it was going to remain military.
Mm-hmm.
So I had these two lists, and my job every day was to go in and make sure that the right equipment got put in the right place. And it was my choice what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was going to take from July to September to close the base down.
Okay.
So all I had to do every day, I went in and divided the list up, number of days, amount of equipment. I'd go in like 9 o'clock in the morning, take a couple of radios up to the control tower for the civilians, go over to base supply, turn in a couple of toolboxes, and I go home for the day.
Right on.
It was great.
Yeah.
Really great. So the big day comes and the base shuts down, and now I've got orders for Shaw Air Force Base. But to the comm squadron,
Okay.
as a buck sergeant, I was going in to be the NCOIC of the radio maintenance shop. And they had just fired the 4 NCOICs before I got there. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I getting myself into? Being a buck sergeant, they want me to be the NCOIC. So anyway, my second day on Shaw, I haven't even processed in yet. I've still got a couple of days. I'm getting base housing and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm walking down the street, and I see this lieutenant colonel walking towards me. And as he got closer, I thought that I recognized him. As he got up to me, I saluted. And he says, "Jim Steele, how are you doing?" And I'm thinking to myself, oh, God, what? Well, it turned out his name was Val Cleland. He was the ops officer at Osan.
Okay.
When I was there. That's where we had met. And he says, "What are you doing at Shaw?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be the NCOIC of the radio maintenance shop." He says, "You want to come and work for me?" And I went, "No, I don't want to have any part of being a roadmat again. I had my one tour, and I enjoyed serving under your colonel, but no."
Yeah.
He says, "Well, remember that phone call you got at Craig?" And I spaced it out of my mind. Personnel had called me up at one point in time, and they said, "We're starting this new career field, and we're pulling all the guys that had previous experience into this career field." I said, "Previous experience? I had 1 year in Korea. I was at Osan for 2 weeks for training, consists of how to put up a GP medium and drive a Jeep in the rain. What?"
Yeah.
They said, "Well, do you want it as a primary or a secondary AFSC?" And I said, "I want it as a secondary."
Right.
They said, "Okay." So I had put that out of my mind.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "No, we're pulling all the guys." He said, "Within 6 months, I'll have you in the 21st task."
Oh, jeez.
And I went, "How long do I have to think about it, sir?" He said, "Till tomorrow morning." I said, "Okay." So I went back home. I was talking to the wife, and I thought, now why should I go be the NCOIC of this troubled shop?
Mm-hmm.
And in 6 months, which is, I might have it working right by then, or I may be fired again. I didn't know.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, I come to the conclusion that why should I wait and be 6 months behind the 8 ball?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I may as well sign up with the colonel and get into it now. And in 6 months, I'll be trained like everybody else.
Sure.
So I went over to his office the next morning. I said, "Okay." I said, "You twisted my arm. I'll I'll come over to the task. I said, now what do I have to do with the comm squadron and personnel to get this done? He said, don't worry about it. He says, I want you to go home for 10 days. You come back, you report back to me. You'll be part of the 21st task. And I said, sir, I don't have any leave time. He says, I told you to go home for 10 days. You come back. I went, okay, I'll take 10 days. You know.
Right.
Plus, it was hunting season, so I got to go back and be with the family, do some hunting and stuff, fishing and stuff like that. And so I come back to Shaw after that 10 days, and sure enough, I'm part of the 21st task.
Uh-huh.
And started being a ROMAD again, which was completely different than it was in Korea.
Okay.
That time, Shaw was we didn't man the battalions like they do now. We only manned a brigade. So anytime the Army had an FTX or any other type of exercise, we would pull guys from the 21st task and send them there. It might be Fort Stewart, might be Bragg. The jumpers usually went to Bragg, Fort Campbell, anywhere east of the Mississippi and in South America, plus Europe. You know, my particular assignment was, believe it or not, Iran, Southwest Asia at the time. Well, also at that time, that we're talking 1977, October of 77. At that time, we were training Iranian pilots there at Shaw, and they would room one Iranian pilot with an American pilot. You know.
Okay.
Well, one of these Iranian pilots happened to be roommates with one of our ALOs. You know, the ALO comes home one day, opens the refrigerator, and there's a skinned cat in the refrigerator.
What?
Well, that was the end of that marriage. Those guys were separated. Then the Iranians were in one part, and the Americans were in another part. So,
I thought you meant somebody was messing with the ALO, but the Iranian was just like, I'm going to have this later for a snack.
No.
Oh, man. Come on.
Dinner was there in the refrigerator raw.
Oh, God.
Which, you know, when they made fun of Trump talking about immigrants that were killing dogs and cats and all that.
Oh, yeah.
That memory flashed back into my head. But we had 6 different teams. Then the jumpers were on a separate team, and then the rest of us. We had 63 enlisted guys and 81 officers at that point in time. And if you look back at the history of the 21st task, I'm sorry, I'm getting old. My memory.
It's all good.
The 21st task. The 21st task, over its time in Vietnam, suffered damn near 100% casualties in their pilots. You know, they were flying the bird dogs and stuff back at that time.
Right.
I was very fortunate to get into the 21st task at that point in time. We had the biggest assortment of talent that I've ever been around. I was daily. I would work with Vietnam War heroes. One of our ALOs was credited with more gun kills in an 02 than anybody else in Vietnam.
Wow.
I think he had 131 kills with rockets.
Jeez.
Okay, with Willie Pete's.
Okay? Yeah.
He would actually kill the anti-aircraft guns from his 02 instead of just marking them and leaving. He was also credited with breaking an ambush on an Army patrol from his 02 by firing his M16 out the window and throwing hand grenades out.
Wow.
You know, so I got to be around people like that.
Do you remember the guy's name?
Yeah, I'll tell you his name, Al Funderburg.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like
he was from North Carolina, from what I understood, a politically prominent family. at that
Okay.
time,
All right.
politically, and there. Great guy. We the task was kind of funny. You had what we call the ring knockers, okay, guys from the academy
Oh, right,
that were
right.
pilots. They tended, not all of them, but some of them tended to think that since we were a radio operator, maintainer, and driver, we were also the cook, the butler, uh, and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
it was very difficult going TDY with those guys because they didn't want to help set up the tent. Um, they wanted to set up quick.
Mm.
They wanted their cots put up and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And uh, that didn't set too well.
No,
But we
I can
managed to do
imagine.
it. But then we had the other ALOs that jumped right in, helped set everything up, and they were great guys. Al
Sure.
Funderburg was one of
Okay.
them. We had ex-Marines. I remember one ex-Marine had a Purple Heart, and his buddy that came over with him had the Bronze Star. The guy that was wounded was a sniper up in a tree. The guy with the Bronze Star was the guy that crawled up and got him when he got wounded.
Wow.
And we actually had some ex-South African mercenaries
Really?
in our group. Um, then we had characters like one Romad we had there was a lumberjack from up in Oregon or Washington. I forget which one.
Uh-huh.
Uh, he liked to fight. Um, we were in the NCO club one night, and he either started or reacted to something. Anyway, gets in a fight. Security police get called. He runs into the bathroom. 6 cops go in the bathroom. 2 staggered out, dragging him with them. A couple of toilets were broken and knocked off of their pedestal and stuff.
Jeez.
And of course, the Romad had some bumps and bruises, numerous ones about his head.
Sure.
But there was only 2 of the cops that walked out that night under their own power. Let's see. Let me get back to the personnel there. Bunch of great guys.
Yeah.
If you remember, the first chief master sergeant of our career field, Chief Champy, he came there. That's where he became chief. Was
Oh,
his
okay.
shop. And that brings up a personnel thing. Back in those days, there was only 760 of us worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
There was 12 chief slots, but only 9 of them were funded. So
Jeez.
you had this pyramid, okay? You had the 9 chiefs up here and then 760 down here.
All right.
You couldn't get promoted.
Yeah.
But according to the regs, you couldn't cross-train either, okay? Guys that came in after the career field was created, that second generation, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
they could cross-train just like normal Air Force. But
Oh, okay.
all of us first guys, we could not.
Was that because there was already kind of a cross train from 304, so they're like,
I
well,
guess
you've already done it once, or they
well,
just need to.
you've got you as you come down to your seniors, your masters, your techs, and so on down. The pyramid got wider,
Sure.
so there wasn't much upper movement. Chiefs weren't going anywhere until they retired.
Right.
So
Right.
seniors weren't going to move up.
Sure.
And it just filtered on down. The average, and you had to keep people in the career field because you had to keep it manned. I mean, nobody
Right.
knew what the career field was in the Air Force. They look
Yeah.
at it's not like today where say, JTAC on my arm.
Sure.
You got a 21st task patch on. We were like the bastard stepchild on the base.
Right.
We would try to get. We would sometimes wait a couple months to get paid back for a TDY.
Jeez.
There was a lot of prejudice against the 21st task.
Oh, okay.
Most of us were what you might say was disgruntled, and we caused a bit of trouble.
Sure.
And because of the pay problem, we felt like we weren't recognized. So
Yeah.
just like a child is going to get attention one way or the other, you can either do it through good things to get your parents' attention, or you can do bad things to get their attention. Well,
Right.
we chose the bad child most of the
Sure.
time, you know, and they'd tell us the computers were down, and would say, "Well, why can't you do it with a pencil?"
Right.
And they'd tell us we didn't understand it. So, well, we finally got. Captain Boggs came in. He was our OIC at one point in time. His wife was in charge of payroll or finance. Okay, well
Nice.
that fixed our problem right there. So,
Sure.
everybody's kind of happy. But we did all kinds of things. On the serious side, every 6 weeks your team would be on standby. We rotated it weekly through the teams. And you had to tell them where you were going to be. If you were going downtown, you were supposed to tell them the place you were going and their phone number, because we didn't have cell phones and stuff.
Right.
And we had to keep our mobility bags packed in the trunks of our cars because we were on worldwide deployment.
Wow.
And so that was quite interesting to manage that. Well, as I was there, the longer I was there, I found myself being the training NCO and the scheduler. Everybody had to check their blocks. So I had to make sure that 63 guys got the right TDYs at the right time. The jumpers got their jumps when they were supposed to get their jumps, and the legs had to go through all this other training. So I did that for the rest of the time I was there. I guess I did a good job. I got an Air Force Commendation Medal leaving there,
Nice.
which is the highest. I guess I could say that's the highest decoration I got. But getting promoted was almost impossible. It seemed like.
Yeah.
I was in 9 years before I made staff.
Wow.
Okay, I was in 16. I was in 16 before I made tech. Some guys smarter than me managed to get promoted a little bit faster, but it was still way above the average for the Air Force.
Right.
And the reason one reason that contributed to that was because they kept cross training people in at the higher levels.
Oh.
Chief Champy came in as a senior master sergeant. Okay, so you got guys like Shorty Suarez at Bragg. Couldn't get promoted because they kept bringing people in above him and filling all the slots.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there was a big problem with that. But I guess they've kind of corrected that now, and everybody in the Air Force knows who we are now.
Sure.
But
were they just trying to beef up trying to form the career field? Is that why they brought in all those high-ranking dudes? So they, instead of taking the time to breed them from within, they're like, hey, we just need to populate these higher levels.
We had guys in the career field that had been in it for a long time. A lot of guys had spent just about their whole 304 career in it. So what was happening was we were having to take the 304 test.
Oh.
Okay? Since
you're not even doing that job anymore
in a long time, you kind of lost out. These guys that they were cross training in above us were only taking the PFE.
Oh, okay.
Okay, promotion fitness exam. So they would come in, get promoted, and that's why most of them came in. So at one point in time, you had what I thought was just a bunch of a lot of the senior leaders, not all of them. There were some very good ones, but a lot of these cross trainees that came in were opportunists. They saw a way to get promoted. Okay. So at least that's my personal opinion.
Sure.
Which to my detriment, I expressed to some of them on occasion.
I'm sure that went over well.
Yeah, it did. So I was associated, I was talking about heroes, guys like Kim Allen, and others that I forget their names now. But I've seen some stuff on Facebook or on the old Romad site, and that where John Rourke was was talking about Kim,
Mm-hmm.
Al. People used to get us mixed up. I guess from behind we were kind of the same build and stuff, and they would often get us mixed up. But Kim, uh, he was one of those guys that you see behind the on the wall behind the glass. It says, "In case of war, break glass."
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
he he did not like being around an organization. He liked being
Yeah.
out on his own. He was the last guy out of Cambodia on the last C-130.
Wow.
He was at the end of the runway with his mark directing the traffic out.
Oh, okay.
As he left, he took a thermite grenade and put it in the gas tank of his mark, and ran and jumped on the ramp of the last C-130 headed down the runway.
Wow.
As they took off, the Khmer Rouge were coming down the other end of the runway, shooting at the airplane as they took off.
Jeez.
Kim had a silver star. Uh,
Nice.
I don't know if it was for that incident or some of the other things that he was involved in over there. The one big thing that has always stuck in my mind uh, from that from my time at Shaw, we had an A7 that crashed up
Mm-hmm.
by Lake Wateree, about 10 miles north of Camden, South Carolina. He he was going along and went into a bank. He was flying low, went into a bank. The left wing caught a tree limb,
Man.
and he went into the ground. He had 3 bags of gas and a full load of 20 Mike
Mm.
when he went in. Knocked a hole in the ground you could park a deuce and a half in. So we get the word back at Shaw there's been an airplane crash. My team happened to be on alert for that. So me and another guy went over into a briefing while the other guys on the team pulled our marks and packed them and all this stuff. So we
Mm-hmm.
came out of the briefing and got right in our marks and headed off to the crash site. But we were leading the base convoy in response to the crash.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So we get up there and set up communications back to Shaw so that we could give them updates and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're down below. It went down in a hollow, and they made a road going down where they could get the pieces parts put on a deuce and a half back
Mm-hmm.
up. Well, it took 2 deuces, as I remember, to get it.
Dang.
Um, One of the striking things is they couldn't find the air conditioner from the airplane. They found it a quarter mile away, about 20 feet up in an oak tree, in the crotch of an oak
Jeez.
tree. Well, going back to the start, when the plane went down, it just so happened that the county sheriff and a female reporter were in the area to do another story
Oh,
on
okay.
an unrelated topic. They saw the plane go down and all this. So they go hauling butt over there, thinking, well, maybe the pilot ejected, he needs some help, something. So,
Sure.
so they go. Now, this female reporter is in high heels and a skirt. Okay. So they go off the side of the hill towards the crash site. Well, by this time, the 20 Mike's cooking off.
Oh, man.
The sheriff was saying how he'd be behind a tree, leave that tree and get to another tree, and the tree was just behind him get cut down by a 20 Mike round.
Jeez.
So it didn't take them very long to decide that they really shouldn't be there. So they
Sure.
they deed back up the hill and to their car. As it turned out, the pilot didn't make it.
Oh, that's a
A
shame.
pine tree came through and came through the cockpit and took the pilot out. So they get all the pieces parts on this one deuce and a half, and this two striper that's driving a deuce and a half, he cranks up, drives up to the top of the hill. Well, now his vehicle's on fire. Everybody's scrambling around. Well, hey, I'm a romance. I'm a Boy Scout, right? I'm always prepared for everything. I grabbed my fire extinguisher, which probably hasn't been used since this is now in 1978, and probably hadn't been used since '67.
Jeez.
But having faith, I dropped down on my back, go up under the truck, and the kid had forgot to release the emergency brake.
Oh,
So it's the drive shaft grease and stuff, oil and stuff that's on fire. So I take my fire extinguisher, I go up, poof, nothing. I'm like, what?
oh
So,
no.
so I slammed it on the ground a couple of times, and then,
Oh, good. Yeah.
it puts the thing out at all. And so they cleaned up um, that and my time in Korea for Operation Paul Bunyan. Uh, that enters my mind a lot.
I'll bet.
You know, um,
Well, like I
nothing.
said, I mean, when I was in Korea, it was nothing like that, and you were like on the DMZ, in harm's way. I mean, you were
Yeah, yeah,
essentially, it was a dangerous situation, and that
yeah,
has to be harrowing. Even though nothing happened to you, but people were dying, and man, that's got to be crazy.
yeah. And I've often wondered if I needed to talk to somebody about that, but at my age now, it it hadn't killed me, so it's not going to. Um, so anyway, I spent my 2 years at Shaw. Back in those days, we moved around a whole lot more than the guys today.
Sure.
Guys today get stationed somewhere, and they see their kids go through middle school, they go somewhere else, they go through high school.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
uh, but so anyway, at the end of that 2 years, I get an assignment to Gallstadt, Germany. And don't worry if you've never heard of it, neither has anybody else. Uh, it was Second Armored Forward. It was one brigade of Second Armored Division. It was 45 kilometers inland from Bremerhaven, Germany.
Okay.
And they just opened the place up. Um, I get to Rhein-Main, Rhein-Main. Then I went to Simbach, where our headquarters was.
Okay.
Went through a little bit of training there, and I'm off to Gallstadt. So I get back up to Frankfurt, and I go to the Bahnhof. I'm supposed to catch the train.
Hmm.
So I walk up to the Army personnel. They were there because I couldn't see an Air Force person anywhere. And I told them where I needed to go, and they had no clue where it was. That's how new this is. Well,
Jeez.
I forget the process, but I eventually got on the train and went up there. Um,
Was there
one of
like
the
a train station in where you needed to go, or did you have to go
yeah, no,
another place?
Osterholz Scharnbeck had a train station. That was the
Okay.
village that was closest to where I was at.
Gotcha.
Um, uh, Gallstadt, like I said, was 45 clicks in from Bremerhaven. It was very close to the German Schwanewede Kaserne. That was the closest German unit. You know, that was one of the most godforsaken assignments I have ever seen. Um, when I got there, the PX was 4 connexes put together. You were
Jeez.
only allowed in 2 or 3 at a time. Um, the the movie theater, you waited outside in line before you could go in. Our snack bar was kind of like what you call a small food truck today, and
Jeez.
you walked on wooden pallets to keep you out of the mud when it was raining.
Sure.
You know, and we were just staffing up the place. Shortly after I got there, the German Communist Party, Red Brigades, those kind of people, blew up our main gate and in a protest. Another time, they had a protest at the front gate, and a couple of guys walked around the perimeter to where we had at that time the alert chopper
Hmm.
was at the back end of the base on the pad. They cut the wire and they burned down the helicopter. So they moved the
Jeez.
helicopter in. Um, Garstadt was a very flat, boggy kind of area.
Hmm.
A lot of snow, very cold. Um, the fog, it would get so cold, the fog would actually freeze to the metal streetlight poles. Um, you always had a sheen. You get a sheen of ice on the roads, just slick. We had a guy from a little guy that was Thai, and he was so little he could sit down on the sidewalk, pull his jacket out like this, and the wind would blow him down the sidewalk. The only way we had to get to Bremerhaven, where you picked up your vehicles and all that stuff, we had buses that ran.
Okay.
Military buses. If you went into Bremerhaven and were hitting the bars and stuff, you'd better be able to catch the 10:30 train, 10:30 bus back, because that was the last bus, even on the weekends.
You ever get stuck out there?
No. Fortunately, I was spending the night, or was sober enough to get back to the bus stop.
Sure.
There was only one Air Force group that I felt had it rougher than I did, and that was the radar guys.
Oh yeah.
Since it was so flat, the Bremerhaven city dump was the highest elevation for miles and miles around. So they decided that that's where they need to put the radar.
Oh my God.
In the summertime, the seagull. It was. I felt really sorry for those guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
But the Army was still going through a lot of, I guess, growing pains, you could say. There was a lot of criminals, you'd have to say, in the Army at the time.
Yeah.
One example, you had to have what they called a chit, signed by your NCOIC for you to leave your place of duty. Like if you were in the motor pool and wanted to go somewhere, you had to get your NCOIC to sign this thing saying you had permission to do it. We had a guy that was in the motor pool and got permission to go to the PX. And during this time, the base had kind of built up. We now had a library, we had a PX, we had a commissary of sorts, and
Okay.
Well, he was going to the PX. Going to the PX, he had to walk by the base library. He walks by the base library, looks in, and there's a very pretty blonde reading a book in an otherwise empty library. Well, this guy, the Army guy, decided that was a good opportunity to go in and rape her.
Jeez.
So he goes in and commits to doing this rape. Well, the librarian was in the back putting up books and stuff. Comes out, finds out what's going on, calls the military police, and he got caught.
Jeez.
Well, they take him and put him in a cell, and they call her husband to tell him what happened and that he needs to come down to the cop shop,
Yeah.
So turns out he's a captain. He comes down to the cop shop. Turns out, yes, the guy worked for him, and the blonde was his wife.
Wait, so the guy that raped the woman worked for the captain?
Who the woman he tried to rape is the captain's wife.
Wow. Did he know her from before? I mean, they worked together. Did he know who it was? Or
I have no clue. The Army guy was not a friend of mine.
okay.
I didn't know the individual.
That's crazy.
But that's just kind of I tell you that story to kind of tell you how things were in the military at that time.
Yeah.
Anyway, while I was at Gallstadt, we would have to go to, like I said, we're just standing up the unit. We would have to go to Simbach and pick up a Jeep and drive it back. It'd be a 2-day trip to Simbach. We'd go back to headquarters at Frankfurt, spend the night, and then going down to Simbach the next day, spend the night there, and we'd try to spend another night in Frankfurt. Just a way to see some other romads and,
Sure.
We would get the Jeep back and get our marks back, and we'd start going through the radios. You probably don't remember the old coffins and stuff on the Mark 108s and 107s.
Yeah, I started on the 107s and the 108s when I first came in, so yeah, I'm familiar.
All right. Well, we'd open up the coffins, take the radios out, hold them up to let all the water drain out of them. Okay, because these were in salvage when we were getting them.
Oh, okay.
And our poor radio maintenance guy, John Sermons, he had his hands full there,
Jeez.
helping that radio shop, trying to make sure all these radios work. But we were successful. We would go to have different reasons for going back to Simbach, personnel things and that nature. And we tried to talk the base commander into forming a task at Simbach, where they'd pull us all in and we'd just go out for the exercise and stuff.
Sure.
His comment on that idea was, "What, do you guys think I'm stupid?" He said, "It wouldn't take you 2 days." He said, "It wouldn't take you 2 days to be charging admission to my damn base." So one time, as we were standing this up, it was early on. Let's see, I was there from 79 to 81. And sometime during that, early in that period, we got word that Base Supply was taking a bunch of their Dexion racks and sending them over salvage. They were getting new ones or whatever. These things are put together with nuts and bolts and all this, like a big erector set.
Okay.
We thought that would go good in our motor pool. We could build shelves to put our stuff on and all this. So the colonel sent me and our supply sergeant, I can't remember his name right now, sent us down to Simbach to pick up all this metal and stuff. We had to disassemble the racks and all this. So we did that, put it on a deuce and a half, had a fairly decent load on there. And we were spending the night, and then we were supposed to leave the next morning going back to Garlstadt. Well, that night I'm talking to the supply guy, and I said, "Hey, look," I said, this Dexion doesn't do us any good for shells if we don't have any plywood to make shells out of,
right,
the bottoms of the shells. He said, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "Well, tomorrow we'll go over to supply and see if we can get some plywood." So I waited till lunchtime. We get in the deuce. Now you got to imagine we just shifted over to berets and camis and blouse boots and that. And nobody in the Air Force knew who the hell we were.
Sure.
So I go flying into Base Supply at the speed of heat in this deuce, pull up by this warehouse, slam the brakes on, slide to a stop, and we jump out. And this tech sergeant comes out. And we said, "Hey, look, we're here to get, Commander sent us down here to get some plywood and all this, and we really need it quick." He opens the doors and says, "Get what you want." So we get 15 sheets of 3/4-inch plywood.
Nice.
Put them on the deuce, strap it down. We haul ass. I mean, we're off the base, going back to Frankfurt. So we spent the night in Frankfurt and played. I forget what kind of board game we were playing and all. But anyhow, we did that, had a good time. And the next morning we head back to Garlstadt. We get to Garlstadt late in the evening, and we went back to the barracks. Next morning, Colonel wants to see me. So I walk in, he goes something like, "You stole that plywood. You are a lousy MF," and all this stuff.
Sure.
And he says, "But I'm not gonna charge you with anything, but you're gonna take the plywood back."
Oh.
I said, "Yes, sir, no problem." I said, "I could use 3 days away from here." Wrong. I phrased that the wrong way.
Sure.
So anyway, he decides that since we already have the plywood, we may as well go ahead and use it, and he'd smooth everything over.
Right.
So that's how we got shelving in our motor pool at that time. So anyway, the rest of the time was pretty uneventful. We went to Hohenfels and the usual places, And so it came time to get an assignment, and a buddy of mine worked at Simbach in headquarters there, and he calls me up and he says, "Jim," he goes, "you and Bob Lighthizer are PCSing at the same time." He said, "I've got 2 assignments. I've got the schoolhouse, and I've got Fort Campbell, Kentucky." which one do you want? I said, well, I'll take the schoolhouse. I had no idea. I'd never been to school.
Sure, sure.
So I found myself being an instructor in a school I never went to. And had some good times at Herbert's, where I had gotten divorced while I was in Gallstadt. Met my second wife there while I was at Herbert. And so life was good. Interesting things happened. It was probably the most satisfying assignment I've ever had. You got to see kids that had never seen a wild blade of grass. All the
Right.
grass they was in a zoo and all this. And after basic training, they come in, and 14 weeks later, they're eating nails.
Right.
I mean, they got all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice being a part of that. But some of the interesting things that happened while I was there. Me and Mike Brooks, he's passed away now. We were buddies, and we had the students out on, I forget whether it's night patrol or night nav, or whether it was the survival part of it. But anyway, in Florida, out on the Eglin Range, all the roads are dirt, and they shine really nice during the nighttime. So you knew where the boundaries were of the exercise area. When students would get lost, it was easy to look and see a tower with a blinking red light on it. Okay. And they would always head to that because that was something, that was, if they couldn't find their way back to base camp, they'd go there.
Okay.
Well, each two-man team that went out of students had a radio. And it never failed that whoever got lost, the battery on their radio would go dead.
Sure.
Right after they told us they were lost.
Right.
So this particular night, me and Mike are out trying to track these two students that are lost. The reason we tried to find them right away was because that blinking red light was on a live range.
Oh.
So, and not knowing the room schedule and all. So anyway, we're out looking for these guys, and we come up on a dirt road that was cut through a bank, okay, a small bank. So you had a steep bank on each side.
Okay.
And this is like 1-2 o'clock in the morning. So me and Mike come down this, and we hear a noise. We get in the middle of the road, and there's a black bear. Okay. We yelled, the black bear roared, and 3 of us went in different directions. So it now takes me and Mike a little while to find each other.
Sure.
And a couple of other instructors actually found the students and brought them back. But we had one bunch of students out one time. It was in the fall of the year. It was a little nippy out, and they asked us if they could build a fire. I said, sure, you can build a fire. Just make sure you don't cut any trees or anything. But you can have fun. So it's not but a little bit later, we see they've all got nice little fires going. Well, the next day was the end of the exercise, so we're packing up the deuce and a halves. We get all the tents on there. There's no tent stakes. Where did the tent stakes? Okay. They had used the tent stakes for the fire. So
that sounds about right.
In order to correct this for the future, we get back to Herbie, and took, I think it was 6 tent stakes from supply, wrapped them in commo wire, okay, and attached it to their wrist, okay, with the other end of the commo wire. Right. They had to carry those tent stakes with them everywhere they went. To the chow hall, to class, everybody.
They'll never forget that again.
No,
they'll never do that one.
No, we had some other things. We had the honorable 8 ball. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not.
I don't think so.
It was a bowling ball.
Oh no, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that would be issued out to the first person that did something stupid.
Right.
And they would have to carry this 12-pound bowling ball with them. Even if they went to the field, they had to find some way to uh, to keep the honorable orb off the ground until
Yeah.
the next guy made a mistake.
Right.
We also had the Hammerhead Award, which was the head of a 10-pound sledge that they would have to carry around from time to time. Uh, and if anything else wasn't available, we would sometimes find a piece of log to give to the deserving character.
Sure.
Uh, and so we could get away with a lot of stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
um, we, at that point, when I first got to Hurlburt, we were getting letters all the time about some of the failings of some of the students that we were uh, passing. Okay, that we
Hmm.
were graduating. They weren't up to snuff according to the guys in the field.
Oh, okay.
So we wanted to correct that. Well, Air Training Command had put in in their calculations a 5% dropout rate uh, was for first termers and a 10% for cross trainees. Well, our washout rate for cross trainees was about 33%, and our washout rate for first timers was sometimes 40%. All of a sudden, we started getting letters from the field. Hey, you're sending great guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, not according to Air Training Command headquarters at Biloxi. Okay.
Right.
Chief Nostine, bless his heart, um, was always getting called back to Keesler, getting chewed out for washing out too many people and all. And he kept trying to explain to them, what we were doing. But
Yeah.
we continued with that for my time there. Uh,
Nice.
Chief Nostine was a great guy. Um, he had been a ROMAD for a while. Uh, but anyway, like I said, that was a very enjoyable assignment. The single guys stayed broke all the time, chasing women.
Right.
Yeah, but
Oh
but
yeah.
all in all, it was a really good time. Uh, General Creech, who was Tactical Air Command um, general
Hmm.
during that time, for some reason did not like our career field. We didn't get the funding like we wanted it and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And got to go on a couple of TDYs besides instructor school, which was 6 weeks at the time down at Keesler. Um, I got to go on Team Spirit 83. Went
Mm.
over to Korea for that. And that was kind of eye opening. We were at core, okay,
Mm.
at the ASOC there,
Right.
and we we were put up in these old Quonset huts. Okay, we had
Hmm.
a couple of potbelly stoves, that ran off
Sure.
diesel and stuff to heat the place up, but still extremely cold inside.
Uh-huh.
Well, one day we're out there and we were set up on a huge rice paddy complex. Well, it was really cold, so it froze, no problem.
Hmm.
Well, I listened to the guys that are around the ASOC, not the ROMADs, but the other guys, complaining about how cold it was. They wished it would warm up. And I told them, I said, you don't want it to warm up. I said, if it warms up, we're in mud. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
2 days later, it warmed up. They
Oh
understood.
man.
They understood why we did not want it to get that warm. But on the cold nights, I think there was 4 of us from Herbie that went over there, and I can't remember all the guys' names now. It's been too long. But anyhow, when we would get ready to turn in at night, we'd strip down to our skivvies, put our uniforms in a sleeping bag,
Yeah.
get in. We're toasty. Well, one morning, this kid, he was a two-striper, walks up to me. He says, Sergeant Steele, he goes, I am freezing to death. He says, I am really cold at night. And I said, well, I guess so. Look what you're sleeping in. You got your bunny boots on. You got your parka on, okay, and your uniform. I said, of course you're cold. I said, tonight, strip down, okay, strip down to your underwear. Put your bunny boots by the bunk. Don't worry about them, and your combat boots. Take your socks off, all this. Put them in your sleeping bag and get in your sleeping bag. He said, well, we've all been wondering why you guys are stripping down and all. We thought y'all were like Eskimos or something. And I said, no, just try it. So he did. He came back the next morning. He said, wow. He said, I had a warm uniform to put on when I got up. I said, yeah. He goes, thank you very much.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but it's the way to do it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we did that, and I was kind of amazed that those guys did not know to do that. They didn't have sufficient survival training.
Yeah.
So we got through with that. We got back. We had to spend the night in. No, let's see. We spent the night in Tokyo going out. And we wound up in Hawaii at Hickam, and we tried to get the crew chief to break the airplane. There was,
right.
I think there was like 6 combat control guys and 4 ROMADs from Hurlburt on the flight.
Yeah.
And of course, we had the little rivalry with the CCT guys back in those days.
Sure.
And anyway, he would not break the airplane. The crew chief wouldn't. He said he'd been gone from home too long, and he wanted to get home. So no amount of money was going to cause him to break the airplane for one night. So we had just enough time to jump in a cab and go over to the PX at Hickam and buy Hawaii 1983 T-shirts, and jump back in the cab in time to take off. And that was kind of interesting. But we had to we flew from Hawaii to, I believe, San Francisco. And we left there, and we were going to Tyndall in Florida. Well, you had to fly right over Eglin to get to Tyndall, pretty much. But they wouldn't land there. We had to go to Tyndall. Get to Tyndall, there was no flights back to Pensacola, Eglin, any of that. So we were going to have to take a commercial flight. And they were going to charge us for our luggage. Well, we got all this stuff,
Yeah.
So here's 6 ROMADs, or 4 ROMADs and 6 CCT guys going through their pocket change, see if we got enough money to pool together to get everybody's stuff back. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
man.
we had just enough. So we get a flight to Pensacola, get there, called Herbie, told him we were back. So we had to wait for them to get somebody to drive to Pensacola and pick us up and bring us back.
Oh, man.
But that was...
Gosh.
That was a lot of fun.
But that makes sense because back then, it's not like you had like a government credit card you could just throw it on, or it was much different to do stuff like that. Yeah.
Give a ROMAD a government credit card? Are you a nuts? the national debt's bad enough now.
Right.
So anyway, I spent my years at Herbert, got married, and I went to I got an assignment to Gelnhausen, Germany. Gelnhausen was the next concern back from the Fulda Gap. You had the guys that Fulda, then you had us.
Okay.
Pretty uneventful year. We had our monthly and quarterly alerts and that kind of stuff, but nothing really big happened during that assignment.
Hold on. Did you? Sorry to cut you off. Did you ever go to the the wall? Did you ever go to the East German side or any other stuff?
Yes. I lived about 300 yards from the Bahnhof there in the little village where I was stationed at Gelnhausen. And when we knew that we weren't going to have an alert or anything, me and my wife would walk up to the Bahnhof and jump on the train. Nice. Eurail pass. And we'd ride the train until we saw something interesting. And we'd get off the train, so check that out, get back on the train, And so one time, one of the train rides we did was along the East German border. The wall had not come down at that time. Mm-hmm. And you saw the barbed wire fence and the the minefields in the back of it and the barbed wire fence and all this stuff. Very, very eye opening. I never went to Berlin. I never was able to get over there.
Okay.
Never took the opportunity, I guess, when it was.
Sure.
But yeah, we a couple of times we went along the border. One time
Yeah.
we were on an exercise, and we actually went up right to the border. We could see the East Germans in their guard tower and all this stuff. And when they saw us, the one small mistake we made was we didn't know that we weren't supposed to do that in uniform. Uh, so,
They think they're
so
getting invaded
yeah. So the
or
guard
probed or something.
sees these few guys, walk up to the border. They duck down, behind their desk. They jump up, go back down. They were taking pictures.
Oh,
So so we decided that we needed to talk to them. So we're just saying crap.
sure, sure.
And this West German woman walks up to us. She goes, "Shh," like that. What do you mean, shh? You know? She goes, they can't hear us. She goes, no, they have listening devices. They can hear you.
Oh,
And we thanked her and she walked off. And I looked at the other guys. They're looking at me and we're like, okay, they've got our pictures and what we've said. Uh, how is this going to go? So
right.
we never did hear anything back. We were just told not that we weren't supposed to go there in uniform. So international incident avoided, I guess you could say.
Right.
Yeah, so we did that. We did the Hohenfels and Grafenbeer rotations and all that stuff.
Sure.
But pretty uneventful, except for the Stars and Stripes. A story comes out in Stars and Stripes about how the Air Force had called in a strafing run on a school bus full of German kids. The way that happened was me and my ALO were out doing dry fire passes.
Oh, okay.
And the pilots got tired of bombing the house with the red roof. If you've been to Germany, all the roofs are red, or the dumpster and all this stuff. And
Right.
frankly, we were kind of tired of doing it too. So one of the pilots calls up and goes, "Hey, we've got a mover." Well, we couldn't see it. We were looking along there was a ridge line in front of us, a little mountain, and the road wound through it where there's lots of trees and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't actually have a visual on it at that point in time. So we said, okay, you're cleared dry. So they dropped down the valley, shoot up the mountain. This German kid on the school bus. It is about this time we realized it was a school bus.
Uh-huh.
This German kid had a camera. He took a very nice picture of the inside of the barrels on a Gal 8.
That's awesome.
So too late, we realized the school bus. We called him off. Oh
Sure.
boy. The next edition of the Stars and Stripes, which I've still got it in my files here, comes out and says that. And we're sitting in the office, me and the ALO, and we're reading this story. I looked down at my stripes and went, "Well, boys, it's been nice knowing you." But nothing ever happened.
Man.
I guess
That's awesome.
I guess at the colonel or general of ranks, they got it smoothed out.
Yeah, okay.
But like I said, then I left Gelnhausen and wound up at NTC. I had never thought about going to NTC. Didn't know what it was about or anything else. The way I got there was I had put down Fort Lewis and Fort Carson. I had, when I was working for Ma Bell, when I joined the Air Force, I liked Colorado, a nice state at that point in time. So I put in for there, and Fort Lewis was getting to test all the new toys,
Yeah.
all the new things that come out, the replacement for the Jeep and all that stuff. So I wanted to go and be a part of that. So I put Fort Lewis on my dream sheet. Well, I get NTC. If you measure on the map the distance between NTC and Fort Carson and the distance to Fort Lewis from NTC, you'll find that they're damn near the same thing. So they put me in between
Jeez.
the two places I wanted to go.
It's almost like they were messing with you.
Yeah. NTC, for the few guys that's never been there, is a very interesting place. It will snow in the winter, even though it's the desert. You're at about 2,500, 3,000 foot elevation. And we would get snow on the mountains, especially every year. To tell you where it is, Barstow is halfway between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. NTC is 39 miles north of Barstow in the desert.
Right.
There's one mountain range. You've got Death Valley, a mountain range, and then you have NTC. Okay. The hottest I was ever out training all day. The hottest day was 126. It was so It would be so hot out there in the summertime that if you were out there in short sleeves, you walk outside, your skin would feel like shrink wrap. You could just feel the moisture going out of it and it's shrinking up and stuff. And during those times, the guys that came there, TDY, had it pretty rough. They would be quartered in what was called the Dust Bowl. And all it was like a pole barn. Okay. You have 10 and it'd be in there. And we would have these huge dust devils that would come through. Okay. I mean, thousands of feet high. You see the brown dirt going thousands of feet. Well, these things would go rolling through the dust bowl, and you see sleeping bags and clothes and all this paperwork flying everywhere, So it was pretty miserable. I felt sorry for the guys that came out there.
Oh, yeah.
But it was an opportunity to meet a lot of guys, too.
Sure.
Because they would all come there. Our job out there was to be observer controllers, referees, if you will, for the Air Force side of the house. Mm-hmm. And we had a little, it was called Sundance. It was up on a little mountain there. And when the planes would leave Nellis flying down to support, that's who they would call into. And we'd send them to an IP, and then they'd pick up the guys out in the field. So we'd do that. Once I finished my tour there at Fort Irwin, I wished that had been my first assignment. That was the only place that I was stationed where I got to see more than just what my battalion was doing. I mean, I would see the whole brigade. Okay.
Yeah.
And I learned how everything tied in. Even though I've been a ROMAT for a long time, I never really understood how it all tied in at all. And I got to see that at Fort Irwin.
Nice.
But that was at the end of my tour when I realized that, not the beginning. I was there for 6 months before I got base housing. And we were on the top floor. You had like a fourplex. You'd have top floor had 2 apartments, bottom floor had 2 apartments, and that was one building.
Wow.
So I was fortunate. I was on the top, so I had a balcony and stuff. One day I was in the kitchen doing something. My wife was sweeping out on the deck there, the little porch we had. She comes in. She goes, "Hon, come and see this. There's orange fog." I'm like, orange fog? What, would we get a chemical spill or something? This could be real serious. So I go out on the balcony, and I look back towards some dry lakes, and I see this wall of orange coming. I said, "That's not fog. That's dust. We're having a dust storm." So we go in, close the doors, put towels around everything that we could, and it finally hits. And it lasted for 3 days, and knocked all the power out and all this. So we're sitting in an apartment with nothing to do but sit there and watch dust settle on everything
Jeez.
and so that they decided that they come around and once a day they would drive through and drop off a 10-pound bag of ice. That was it for the day.
Wow.
Uh, yes, that was interesting. The compound that they have now at NTC we built.
Oh, really?
Um, it's got a 640-foot wall, brick wall around it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and and at that time, there was a couple of mobile homes. I don't know if they have a permanent building now or not. I have never been back there. But uh, they sent two guys down from Nellis. Um, they would always have guys that were just kind of sitting around waiting to retire. They really didn't have a job. So they sent two brick masons down there, and they stayed a couple of days and showed us how to mix the mortar, how to place the bricks, and all this stuff. And then they left and went back to Nellis. And so us and the officers pitched in and we built this. I think it was 6 feet tall. The 6 feet tall and 640 feet
Wow.
around. It was nice compared to where we were at.
Sure.
And so we got that done. Some of the other things that happened. Um, you haven't lived well. If you were in Iraq or Afghanistan, you probably saw it. But a brigade online at a night live fire. That is an amazing sight to see. I didn't realize that tank rounds could skip that far. You know,
Right.
but got to see a couple of those and a lot of day live fires. And we were also close to Leech Lake, which was an open bombing range.
Oh, okay.
And we'd have anything from Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force coming in, Navy dropping bombs and stuff up there.
Yeah.
They were having a problem with in the civilian world, they were having a problem with drugs there for a while. And they noticed that just before new drugs hit the street, there would be this camper that would drive up into Leech Lake. And then all of a sudden there'd be all these drugs.
Mm.
Well, there weren't supposed to be any civilians at Leech Lake. So they bombed it. They knew they knew nobody was there, but they bombed the vehicle in the trailer. And that
Really?
was the end of it. Yeah.
That's
Another
awesome.
time, another time we're doing a east to west live fire. And they'd swept the range. There wasn't nobody there. In the
Yeah.
middle of this live fire, I mean, you got artillery going, tanks going, all this. This pickup truck comes out of the west into the live fire. Holy crap! You can't have that. So they called it off, ceasefire. They went out. There's two drunk illegal alien Mexicans. They were just out shooting. They were just out shooting cans and anything else that they saw on the range and stuff. So,
Jeez.
but luckily they didn't catch a 105 round
Yeah.
in their vehicle. You know, but I'm trying to think of some other things out in there. Not really. It was just normal training and stuff
Yeah.
when I was there. But like I said, I got to meet a lot of the guys rotating in and out. You know, and got to see my old buddy Joel Hockinen. He had worked. He was there at. He was permanent party there at NTC and got out and got some civilian job. What NTC did was during the first Iraq War was we went out and built Iraqi villages
Oh, okay.
and mock-ups. At first, all it was connexes.
Hmm.
Not very realistic, but it gave you guys some training and stuff. And over time, it evolved into where we were hiring Middle Easterners to go play various roles out there, the mayor, the sheriff, the
Sure.
townspeople, and all that stuff. And they would take local Middle Easterners, mostly from San Diego area, and bring them up there for 2 weeks during training. And Joel was in charge of them.
Oh,
You
okay.
know. During one of the first two rotations we had up there, all of a sudden the CID shows up and they arrest two of the role players.
Jeez.
it turned out they were no kidding Iraqi agents that were sent over to see what was going on. Yeah.
Gosh.
So we had that. Um, when I first got there, it was nothing to have 2 or 3 people killed during training.
Really?
When I left there, um, well, I got there in '88, and I retired in '91, but I stayed at NTC. Uh, I was offered a job as an electronic technician one in the commo shop.
Cool.
The contractor supported ops group, which did all the training.
Oh, okay.
So we would listen into their FM communications, and we videotaped a lot of stuff, their training and all this, and we'd take all that and build an after action review. So after the training battle was over with, they go into a theater, which we had 4 mobile theaters at the time, and we had 2 fixed theaters. And they would go in there and have an after action review, learn what they did right, what they did wrong, this and that. Mm-hmm. So I was in a commo shop and making $10.10 an hour as electronic technician one. And I had just bought a $102,000 house. So I worked all the hours that I could.
Right.
I'd been there about 6 months, and the contractor had a job control site in the brigade building there, and I would stop by there every morning to look on their big board and see what kind of outages we had. Mm-hmm. Well, because I hadn't been a 304 in a long time, the only reason I stopped by there was so I could find the easy jobs that I knew I could do. And then I go tell my boss, hey, this is break, I'm going to take care of it, right?
Good call.
And yeah. So I kept going in there, and one day, one of the guys from job control walks in, the second in command, and we're all, think there was 52 of us technicians, video, computers, audio, and all that in there. He walks in and he goes, we've got an opening in operations in our office up here. He goes, who's stupid enough to want that job? It starts at $17.50 an hour. So I'm like besides the supervisor, I'm like one of the oldest guys in there, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm a tech one. I'm going $10.10 to $17.50. Pretty damn good pay raise,
Yeah.
And so I waited. Nobody raised their hand, so I raised my hand. He said, "Come on up to the office." I walked in, and the senior operations, what they called us operation controllers at the time. He recognized me from stopping in there in the mornings. So I got hired as an operations control guy.
Nice.
And I did that for, from, I would have been 91 till 96. I was one of 4 guys in the operations center, and we stayed open 24/7, except for 2 days a year, Christmas and New Year's.
Oh, okay.
So if somebody took leave, the other 3 had to work every day until that guy got back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty grinding, and between rotations, when nobody was there, you're the only person in the building. You got a 98,000 square foot building. Okay, you're the only guy there. You would not believe the noises that a building can make during the night when you're the only one.
All right.
So I did that till 96, and they decided to put in a new commo system for the FM there, and they were looking for somebody to be the site rep, the liaison between NTC and the contractor.
Okay.
Kind of their technicians. Basically, it was watching over the technicians and all this to make sure that whatever they did didn't harm the legacy system. Okay.
Okay.
And you had to coordinate the training and the installation and make sure they didn't bump into each other.
Oh, okay.
So um, so I had gone to my boss there at NTC at the time. Uh, he was another no kidding Vietnam War hero. Um, he had been a lieutenant colonel, ranger type. Um, had his left arm, forearm shot away um,
Jeez.
in a battle in Vietnam. They made a book and a movie about it. The book is called "They Walked into the Sun."
Okay.
Um, when the battle was over, it was just him and his first sergeant. They were leaning up against a tree, both of them wounded. They were leaning. The colonel had his back against this tree, and the first sergeant was in front of him with his back against the tree. When they got to him, there was, I believe it was 40 KIA behind the first sergeant, and there was 20 behind the colonel.
Jeez.
Okay. Um, they each thought that they were the only ones that lived through it. The colonel was put in for a Medal of Honor. It got downgraded to a Silver Star,
Man.
and I think just before he died, it was upgraded again, but I'm not sure. But anyway, he was site manager there, and he would come into my office sometimes when things were slow and would just talk. I liked the guy.
Yeah.
We got along, and he was one of those guys where we worked in what they call the fishbowl in the ops center. It had windows all across one wall, so
Right.
everybody could look in and see what we were doing. I could see him walking down the hall and just see the look on his face and knew what was on his mind, you know.
Yeah.
And but he talked about that, and he said he had never gone to a reunion because he thought all of his guys were dead, you
Yeah.
know. Well, they never said anything because they thought he had died.
Oh,
So they never
jeez.
sent him an invitation
Oh,
to
man.
it. So finally, somebody found out that he was still alive, and they got an invitation, and he went in, and everybody goes, "Clark Welch, we thought you were dead," you know, and all this. So, he was an amazing guy.
Yeah.
The contractor bosses were afraid of him. They thought he was insane.
Uh-huh.
Uh, they had a meeting one time down in I believe it was in Vegas. It was either LA or Vegas. And all of the site managers from the contractors' different sites were there.
Yeah.
And so the first guy they introduced to the audience and got on stage was the guy that was in charge of Skunk Works
Mm.
there in LA. Okay.
Yeah.
And he get up there and gave his spiel about how many people he was in charge of and how much money they brought into the company, this and that. The second guy they introduced was Clark Welch from NTC. He gets on stage and goes, "My name is Clark Welch. I'm the site manager at NTC, and evidently you people don't know who the fuck I am." He goes, I am in charge of this many people," which we had almost, I think it was 512 at the time,
Yeah.
contractors. "And we bring in this much money, yada, yada, yada."
Yeah.
He said, they said the vice president of the company sitting there was, clenching the arms of his chair, his veins sticking out in his neck and all this stuff. Well, they decided they want to get rid of him. Okay. So they sent him to Las Vegas to see a company shrink, So Clark says he walks into the office, and here's this young lady sitting behind the desk, looked like she was fresh out of school,
Mm-hmm.
And he sits down, and they're doing their interview. And at one point in the interview, she says, "Mr. Wells, do you think that you're capable of taking another human being's life?" He said he stood up, put his knuckles on her desk, and leaned over and said, "Lady, evidently you haven't read my resume." He said her bottom lip started trembling and all this stuff. And it wasn't long after that till he retired.
Yeah. How do
And
you interview a guy like that and not know his background? I mean, that's crazy to me.
yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
But that was one of the interesting people I got to be around.
Yeah.
Another thing, the COG, they call it Commander of Operations Group.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, every one of them but one was promoted to general after leaving there. There was one guy that wasn't, and I forget exactly who he was and what he did wrong, but there was only one. At one point in time, they decided that they were going to hire a civilian to be the cog.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to try that. So they picked a guy that was in a colonel in the National Guard, Army National Guard, and they made him the cog. Well, in his contract, it said that he got a $10,000 bonus if he made it through his first year. Then his contract would go up by 10,000.
Sure.
He made it a year and a day, and he resigned. He got his $10,000 bonus.
Hey,
Made the Army so mad they said we will never have another one.
yeah, no doubt.
But I'm getting off my stuff. I after we put in that communication system I was talking about, that ended in '97, and we were supposed to build another NTC type operation in Poland
Mm-hmm.
and in Canada, but funding got cut.
Mm-hmm.
So here I was, no job. So I went back to the contractor and said, "Hey, you got anything I can do?" And they said, "Yeah, we got this new commo system. Nobody knows it. You were here when it was put in. You're now our field maintenance supervisor."
Nice.
Okay, fine. Nice salary. And so I did that I did that from '97 until '99, I think, and I went back to the ops shop, back to being an operations coordinator.
Okay.
I did that until 2003, and I moved over to the civil service side.
Oh, okay.
Still with operations group. I was the integration officer. Again, it was my job to make sure that the new system would talk to the old system, and upgrades to either the old or the new system didn't stop operations and this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
I did that until 2012, and my wife was civil service, and she had gotten an assignment to Huntsville, Alabama, to Redstone Arsenal.
Nice.
And we did that because my parents were already passed away. My dad was still living, but my mom had passed away, and her parents were getting old and was going to need to be seen about. So we were trying to get back close to home.
Yeah, okay.
So Huntsville was as close as we could get. Well, she got an assignment there, and I went to the garrison commander and was talking to him, and the command sergeant major there for the garrison wrote me an introductory letter to the command sergeant major in Huntsville.
Oh, okay.
So I left without having a job.
Yeah.
And so went there, and in the process of us moving, they had a hiring freeze. So since my wife already had accepted the job, she got the job. I didn't have one.
Oh, man.
And so I set up my own little business. It was called Green Leaf Organics, and I was making. I had a giant worm farm, basically, and I was taking the worm castings and mixing them, turning them into fertilizer, and I was making different soil mixtures for landscapers, from topsoil, the worm castings, and high-grade topsoil and compost and stuff. So I did that until, 2012. In October 2012, it was my 28th wedding anniversary. My wife's mother had passed away shortly before that. Mm-hmm. And she was down with her dad for a couple of weeks, helping him. So on our anniversary, she drives back up to Huntsville, walks in the house, and we're getting divorced.
Oh, man.
Ooh, okay, so I got divorced, and I moved to South Carolina in December of 2012. My son, the reason I came to South Carolina, um, my son was a sergeant on the local police force here in Camden,
Oh,
and
okay.
so my grandkids were here. I only had the one son, and so my grandkids were here. So I moved here, and his his wife had been married before, and she had come in possession of 2.25 acres about 10 miles outside of Camden. And I had bought that from them years before they kind of got in a financial situation to help them out. I bought some property from them.
Sure.
So I found myself back here in South Carolina and built a house on that 2.25 acres, and here I am.
Nice.
So that's pretty much it. Um, Now I'm retired. I've I'm active in local politics. I ran for county council back in 2018. I ran against a two-term incumbent and lost by 242 votes.
Oh man.
So I made a pretty good showing, but not good
Yeah.
enough. Um, in our district, there were 1,700 people that didn't vote. So who knows what the outcome would have been? I might have lost 1,042 votes instead of 242.
Right.
But did that. I um, I do a lot of flea market stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I set up a local flea market and stuff on Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay.
Do that. That's pretty much it. Working around. I tell you, once you get to be old, 2.25 acres is a lot to take care of, especially when it's covered in pines and they drop limbs all over the place.
Oh, I'll bet.
Right
What
now, it looks like a tornado came through, and I've got to get out there and start loading up my pickup and taking limbs off to the dump.
What's the name of the flea market? Is it like a well-known flea market,
There,
or is it?
there's there's no real name for the flea market. Is attached to Bill's Country Kitchen restaurant.
Okay.
Um, uh, I'll put in a shameless plug: 1804 Jefferson Davis Highway in
There you go.
Camden. We're there Fridays and Saturdays. I pretty much have a lot of NASCAR stuff, some tools. Um, I have what's left of it now is a 45,000 card baseball, football, basketball, and ice hockey collection that
Wow.
I sell cards and stuff for. I'm also a coin collector. I have a nice coin collection, and I buy, sell, and trade coins all over the place.
Okay.
Um, and that and my third wife, Dawn, uh, we're just hanging out in the country. We live so far out to use a cell phone. We have to have a booster
Oh, really?
on it.
You
Yeah,
know what? That sounds nice, though. That really does. That sounds
well,
like
it's
you know.
I've got good neighbors. Everybody out here has at least an acre and stuff, so you're not you're not right up together
Yeah.
like across the highway from me, little 2-lane country highway. Is a 17-acre hayfield, and also it's it's nice. It's
Nice.
nice. I don't mind spending the rest of my life here.
Sure. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. This was awesome. I always get a kick out of hearing about the way things work, because like you and I shared the same kind of space, but it was in different times, right? I went to
Yeah,
Korea, I was
exactly.
in Germany for 2 years, but I mean I was there in the mid '90s, so it was after the wall came
We're
down.
at
So I was at Vilsec for 2 years.
Vilsack.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, it was just fascinating to hear all these stories, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I enjoyed it. It's nice to be able to talk about somebody that understood what I was saying.
Sure, I definitely did.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
sir.
JD. Good to see you, my
Yeah,
friend.
you too.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
We'll see you.